movement to reform the way New York City's public schools are policed spilled onto the streets this summer. It became one of the most heated issues in the battle over the city's budget. Should the NYPD continue their control of school safety agents?
They're just talking about moving the budget line for the school safety agents from NYPD to DOE. That's not transformative. That's an accounting trick.
In New York City, over 5,000 school safety agents protect our students. In fact, if it were a standalone police department, the school safety division would be the 6th largest police force in the country, with more officers than Boston, Atlanta, and Washington, D.C.
It's a difficult job when you are dealing with youth. It's a difficult job when you're dealing with safety. It's a job that's always open for criticism.
One of the most vocal critics, the New York Civil Liberties Union. Executive Director Donna Lieberman has sounded the alarm in public and in court.
Working to disrupt the school-to-prison pipeline for a good 15 years. We started out exposing it for what it was. Nobody knew.
The school-to-prison pipeline. It's been the focus of award-winning documentaries like Ava DuVernay's 13th.
States were required to keep these prisons filled, even if nobody was committing a crime.
And Anna Devere Smith's play, Notes from the Field.
It is impossible to talk about the criminal justice system without talking about education.
We can't blame teachers for this because this issue is an issue that does start with disparity.
The school-to-prison pipeline is a disturbing trend. Students are pushed out of schools, their learning environments, and into the juvenile and criminal justice systems, disproportionately affecting Black students.
Criminalizing school discipline, bringing cops into the schools to arrest kids for violating school rules.
Back in 1998, there was another intense, emotional, and public debate about the role of police officers in our schools.
There was a whole year of violent incidents in the New York City school system.
In the 1996 to 1997 school year, there were nearly 1,000 physical assaults, 221 sexual assaults, including rape, and 1 murder in New York public schools.
There's no question but that the Board of Education needed help.
That's when Mayor Rudy Giuliani led the effort to bring school safety under the NYPD.
The police department brought order and structure to the school safety division.
But with it came a path of racial injustice.
In the 20 years since then, thousands of children have been arrested for things that should have been a trip to the principal's office.
After 1998, the number of school safety agents increased to 60%. By the 2011 to 2012 school year, school suspensions peaked at more than 69,000 a year.
We have stop and frisk going berserk on the streets, and we had the equivalent going berserk in our schools, much to the detriment of thousands of young people, particularly young men of color.
A 2018 report from the New York Equity Coalition found the city's Black children are suspended at more than 5 times the rate of white children, much higher than the national rate.
Once you've got a record, whether it's in school or in the criminal justice system, it's really hard to get out of the system.
The coalition also found that city schools impose the most disproportionate discipline on Black girls. At the elementary and middle school level, Black girls were 10 times more likely to be suspended than white girls.
The girls that I talked to, you know why they got in trouble? Why they ended up in trouble? For running their mouth.
Suspension means time away from valuable classroom lessons. So, why are Black students suspended and expelled more often than their classmates? Researchers have found racial bias plays a role, with Black students more likely to be seen as problematic.
If New York really believes that Black lives matter, well, then we'll behave as if young Black lives matter too.
Racial bias isn't the only factor. Black children in New York City are more likely to be raised in poverty and without a father than white children.
I had negative people in my life. My uncles was in the streets. They were hustling from Harlem. And that's all I grew up seeing, so I wanted to do that and be like that, right? And I got in trouble for trying to be like that.
In high school, Antonio Hendrickson found himself in that school-to-prison pipeline, graduating from expulsions 2 arrests. And at 25, Antonio was behind bars serving 20 years for drug dealing. But during that time, Antonio turned his life around and now runs Lead by Example, Reverse the Trend.
We give them tools, teach them how to communicate, how to actively listen, how to work on their emotions, how to mediate between themselves.
New York needs to come together to support our children.
Since Mayor Bill de Blasio entered City Hall, both suspensions and arrests dropped significantly. And in June of 2019, the mayor and schools chancellor, Richard Carranza, made the biggest step to shift school discipline since 1998.
Police should enforce the law. They shouldn't enforce the law in schools as a matter of course.
Ending the school-to-prison pipeline is no easy task, but one the Harlem-based nonprofit Getting Out, Staying Out hopes to achieve.
We focus on the 3 A's, so education, employment, and emotional well-being.
Artemio was apprehensive when he first joined the program, rebuilding his life after a suspension, dropping out of high school, and a drug arrest. Artemio's key to staying out of jail was to finally finish his high school diploma.
It makes me feel better, like myself, you know, having a diploma. I want to see how many doors it's gonna open to me.
Ayana Harry, Pix 11 News.